a student who was like 65 years old, black belt. And he came in to one of the instructors and said, like really down, and was like, this guy's a blue belt and I couldn't tap him. Like we had a stalemate. And he felt really awful. And the instructors, the Gracies, knew that blue belt, and they were like, he's 20-something years old, he's athletic, and he weighs 40 pounds more than this guy. And this guy had in his head, like, I'm a black belt, so why can't I beat this blue belt?
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so they were saying, so you might have heard this. I've heard some version of this around the gym too, which is, well, the principle is this, that these things actually matter in any fight, whether it's jiu-jitsu or defending yourself on the street or any sort of physical confrontation. Size, age, weight, experience, of course, strength, these things matter.
Yeah, explosiveness, athleticism.
Right. So some people have this
balance, agility.
Even people that have done jiu-jitsu a while.
Aggression.
Right. All these things.
Yeah.
Have, and then luck, even something, you know, like how it happens to go, you know?
Definitely.
And even people that are experienced in jiu-jitsu sometimes maintain this idea that they're like, isn't jiu-jitsu an art for overcoming a bit larger opponent?
Yeah.
And so why it shouldn't matter. And it's
and that's a great point.
It's not saying it doesn't matter.
They basically, that was a ham-handed sales pitch. You know, Royce Gracie is this 170-pound guy, and he's beating these Goliaths. Right. Yeah, and we're like, this is magic. It's a miracle. And it did excite everybody, and it did capture all our imaginations and fired up our enthusiasm. And there is something to it, but
to say size doesn't matter.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
I remember a long time ago hearing a conversation with, again, a good jiu-jitsu player who was saying, I think they asked you, it was a long time ago, it's vague to me, but they were saying, so if you had two people of equal jiu-jitsu skill and one's much bigger than the other one, would there be a difference? And it was like, I think you had to sort of gently be like, well, I think the bigger guy would have an advantage if they had equal skill, but one was significantly bigger. Yeah. Like
math is pretty straightforward there. Yeah.
It's not too tricky. Not a lot of variables in there.
Not a lot of calculus. That's pretty much arithmetic.
So some people, though, do have this fantasy of like, it's all jiu-jitsu, none of that matters. But I think anyone that rolls, and if you're thinking clearly, you know that if someone is much more athletic and stronger or younger or
it's
more in shape, it's hard.
Then it's all physics. You know, I was doing a private lesson with a couple of my students, Chad Lightfoot, Alex Carrentis, great guys, great students. And they're kind of big, burly guys. I don't know where Chad's weighing in now, at least 230. Alex lost some weight. I think he's down to 220. He's doing great. But that's pretty big guys, right? Yeah. And guess what? If you want to move somebody that's 230 pounds, if you want to sweep them, you need a certain amount of momentum. Like you can't.
There's physics involved.
Yeah. The whole thing is physics. Yeah. So there's levers, you know, your arms and your femurs and your humerus bones. There are certain levers, and your shin bone is a lever, and there's acceleration and there's mass, and it's goddamn physics. So if the guy's 230 pounds and that 230 pounds is sitting there on the mat and it's not moving, and you want to flip it over onto its back, that requires a significant amount of force. Yeah. And if the guy was 130 pounds, it requires a lot less force. So, yeah, of course it matters a lot.
And what I always say to this is that people always miss this, where they're sort of like, well, even after however many years of training, I bet you still would have trouble like with this, you know, whatever big college football player or you know, something like that. And it's like, what I always think people are missing is, well, what would be my chances against that football player if I didn't do jiu-jitsu? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what you're missing. Like, it's like, I'd have why would I have any chance? I'd have nothing on him.
If you have no training and the guy outweighs you by 15 pounds, he kicks your ass.
Right.
Not 50 pounds, just 15 pounds. You know?
It's like, don't lose sight of it's amazing that you're even having the conversation.
Exactly.
Like all of a sudden your mindset shifts to like, I had a lot of trouble with this. He was only a white belt, but he was like 250 and 25 years old and muscle bound.
Right.
And I had trouble with him. It's like, well, he had trouble with you too. Yeah. And he's and he should
Right.
have demolished you. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting, Dan, that I've been thinking about this exact thing about size, not because I'm going to go into the ultra heavyweight, but that's important as well. But just teaching guys, and makes a big. Your strategy is going to vary. If 230-pound guys are going at each other, they're going to have a different strategy than 230-pound guys. And for jiu-jitsu in general, you need momentum. So momentum requires movement. So I have to start moving myself and get my opponent moving so I can create potential momentum that I can add to and capitalize on. You know what I mean? So it's even more important when they're bigger people. And it might sound simplistic the way I'm describing it now, but it's not obvious to people. They think, oh, I'm going to learn these techniques, and I'm just going to do the technique. I'm going to do a scissor sweep. I'm going to do a butterfly sweep. And if the guy's bigger and he kind of knows what he's doing, it's going to be hard to just do it. You know what I mean? You got to you basically, against better people, you got to do 5 things to them until the 6th thing works.
Right.
Because you're creating off balancing, you're getting them out of position, you're moving into the position of fulcrum, you're creating so much movement and so much momentum that now you have the force required to turn them or do whatever you need to do. You know, so movement is really important in jiu-jitsu and like multiple attacks, you know.
Right. And I've heard many times too, going against someone larger, sometimes you want to move yourself and not them, right?
Yeah.
Like if they're too big, you're just thinking about getting yourself away or moving around them or getting to their back, or
But you want to get them moving too, because there's the potential for momentum. If they're not moving at all, then you're gonna have to just get around them and get on top of them, I guess. And then when you're moving around them, they'll move to stop that, and now you got some movement and some potential momentum.